All right, what is going on, you overgrown grotto? Coming at you with my top 10 Paradox Rift cards. I've already done a full set review, so if you want to check out what I think about the other cards in the set, you can check that out here on the main YouTube channel. I also talked about my personal buy list and what I think are going to be good cards from the set that are worth adding to your competitive collection. But let's go ahead and let's just jump right into it. I got Xatu here as my honorable mention / 11th best card in the set. 100 HP stage 1 Pokemon. Got the ability once during your turn, you may attach a basic psychic energy from your hand to one of your bench Pokemon. If you do, draw 2 cards. So super powerful ability. It's energy acceleration. It is also a draw ability. It's draw power. It's energy acceleration. Those are 2 great things to have in the Pokemon TCG. But I think what's missing for Xatu is good attackers to go along with it. It's not a good attacker in itself, only doing 80 damage for Psychic Double Colorless. So it needs something to go with it to be able to actually take knockouts. And I think we're kind of lacking that good psychic attackers right now. There are a couple cards coming out in this set, the Mewtwo EX, the Deoxys, and the Latios. None of them made my top 10, but they're all potentially decent attackers in the Xatu deck, but I think we're still missing something a little bit more powerful for Xatu. So I think we're gonna have to wait a little bit for Xatu. But for Xatu, it just needs another psychic attacker or 2 to become a really, really good deck. So Xatu just has to kind of wait until those cards come around. Could be next set, could be the set after that. Xatu's gonna be here for a couple years though, so Xatu's got plenty of time to wait for the right psychic attackers to combo with it. It's not going anywhere, it just needs to wait for the right partner. So I see Xatu climbing the ranks eventually into a more competitive deck later on in the future. Getting into the actual top 10, and up at number 10 is the Roaring Moon EX, which is probably the 3rd most hyped EX card in this set behind Iron Hands and the Golden Go. But for me, it's nothing really special. It's a basic 2-prize Pokemon, 230 HP. It's got the Frenzied Gouging attack for Dark Colorless. You can knock out your opponent's active, but you do 200 damage yourself, leaving you with 30 HP remaining, so you don't quite KO yourself. And there's an Ancient Tool coming out that gives your Ancient Pokemon plus 60 HP, so we could have 90 HP remaining, which is decent. And then for Dark Colorless, Calamity Storm. If this attack wasn't on this card, I would say this card is probably just bad, but this does kind of round things out a little bit. 100 damage, you may discard a Stadium play. If you do, you do 120 more damage. So the Roaring Moon to me is just another 2-prize basic Pokemon, or 2-prize Pokemon in general, I guess I should say, that tries to one-hit KO your opponent's active Pokemon. We see it with Miraidon, we see it a little bit with Chi and Pao, although I think the depth of Chi and Pao is definitely a little bit more with like the Radiant Greninja. But yeah, I'm just not blown away by this card. Just another 2-prize Pokemon that tries to one-hit KO your opponent's active Pokemon. And usually those decks overall sometimes end up being meta decks. Look at something like Miraidon, but then we can look at something like Hisuian Zoroark V-Star that ended up not being a very good competitive deck at all, and just kind of bad. And I don't know, Roaring Moon could definitely fall into that category. It'll either be a tier 3 or tier 4 competitive deck, or it just won't even exist competitively. So I'm not blown away by Roaring Moon. It's just another 2-prize Pokemon that one-hit KOs your opponent's active Pokemon. I guess the one thing that Roaring Moon does have going for it is the Frenzied Gouging. It will always one-hit KO your opponent's active Pokemon. You won't run into weird situations with, I don't know, the Hisuian Zoroark, where you might just not have enough damaged Pokemon on your bench to knock out their active, or with like Miraidon, where the opponent's active Pokemon has too much HP. The Roaring Moon EX with the Frenzied Gouging will always be able to one-hit KO your opponent's active. Maybe that is where the power for this card will come from and actually make it a viable competitive deck. We'll have to wait and see. I'm not blown away by Roaring Moon, just like our next card here, which is the Golden Go EX at number 9. Once again, another 2-prize Pokemon that's trying to one-hit KO our opponent's active Pokemon. 260 HP. Got the coin bonus ability though. Once on your turn, you may draw 1 card. If this is in your active spot, you may draw 2 cards. So some built-in draw power is definitely nice. And it's got the attack Make It Rain. 50 damage for a metal energy times the number of basic energy you discard from your hand. So the versatility, or I guess the pluses of something like a Golden Go over like a Miraidon or the Roaring Moon that we just took a look at, is that it's got that built-in draw power in the ability, which is great. You're still probably rocking B-Barrel with this. I think you want to drop with B-Barrel first, then drop with the coin bonus afterwards. You're going to be using like superior energy retrieval to recover your energy to take big knockouts with the Golden Go. You're going to need a little bit more draw power, I think, than just the coin bonus. That's not going to be quite enough, because towards the end of the game, theoretically, some of your Golden Go's are already KO'd. And yeah, it's just the coin bonus isn't going to be quite enough to support the resources you need to get big one-hit KOs. But with its attack cost, it only costs a metal energy, and you can discard any kind of basic energy from your hand that you want. So it doesn't have to be metal energy that you discard. So I've seen people playing this with like Fog Crystal, because Fog Crystal finds Gimme Ghoul, but they can also find basic psychic energy to then combo with your attack, Make It Rain. Or I was thinking Radiant Greninja does seem very good in here, and you probably will play Radiant Greninja, but you could play Radiant Charizard and basic fire energy. So you could use Radiant Charizard as a really powerful 1-prize attacker towards the end of games as well. So there's a lot of things you could potentially do with Golden Go. But the best way to play it might just be as straightforward, as consistent as possible, and you're just attacking with Golden Go turn after turn after turn. Maybe playing like the 1/1 Caesar line that I've been seeing some people put into the deck as well, because it gives you like a 1-prize attacker to kind of work with to put your opponent on odd prize cards. So it's not just like golden go into golden go into golden go, and then your opponent just kind of wins in 3 attacks potentially. You can throw it off a little bit with the Caesar. So that would be nice to see. And yeah, there's a lot more depth to something like a golden go. Like it is like still a 2 prize Pokemon that's just trying to 1-hit KO your opponent's active every single turn, but a little bit more depth to it because of the energy cost and the energy requirements, and then also a little bit more draw power. Yeah, a little bit more going on with the golden go than something like the Roaring Moon, but it is still a 2 prize Pokemon that is trying to 1-hit KO your opponent's active. So that's why it's here at number 9. I'm not a huge fan of it in terms of like top level competitive viability, but I think it will probably be a meta deck overall. Up at number 8, we've got the Technical Machine Evolution. I think I maybe should have put this one a little bit higher. I think this could completely change how evolution decks are actually built and are going to become fully built around this card potentially. So it is a tool card that you can attach to one of your Pokemon. It does get discarded at the end of your turn though, so you got to use it or lose it on the turn you put it into play. For 1 colorless energy, choose 2 of your bench Pokemon, search your deck for an evolution card, put it onto that Pokemon, and basically evolve it on that turn. So you can do this on the first turn going second, or like second turn going first. And I think it's possible we see evolution decks fully play around this card in how they are built in the future. Playing stuff like Town Store to search out the tool card, or even playing something like Quad Arvin, like a Quad Arvin evolution deck. You get to search your deck for an item. So if you go second on your first turn, you play an Arvin, you get a Battle VIP pass, you get the Technical Machine Evolution, attach it to your active, and then whatever your active is, hopefully you have an energy for it, and then you just use the evolution attack from the Technical Machine Evolution and evolve 2 of your bench Pokemon that you got off the Battle VIP pass. That's how I could foresee evolution decks working from here on out. We'll see. I maybe should have put this a little bit higher because I could see this like completely changing how evolution decks are built, but it might be a little bit too clunky. Arvin isn't that great of a supporter to play. You're only getting those 2 cards that you can search out with the Arvin. Playing something like a Research or an Iono might be a little bit better, but we're gonna have to wait and see. Definitely gonna be trying out quite a few evolution builds based around the TM evolution, and it'd be really cool if that's the way evolution decks look moving forward for sure. Coming in at number 7 is the other TM, a TM de-evolution. I have it here a little bit higher. It is definitely going to be a very powerful card for 1 colorless energy. De-evolve all of your opponent's evolved Pokemon in play by putting the highest stage evolution card into their hand. So everything gets de-evolved. So if your opponent has a bunch of stage 1s in play and you put them all back into their hand, they can just evolve them all back on their next turn. So the way this card is going to be utilized is to disrupt rare candied Pokemon. If your opponent has like a basic Pidgey in play, or a Pidgeot in play that got rare candied from a Pidgey, you can use TM de-evolution and then de-evolve the Pidgeot, and then to get that Pidgey back into a Pidgeot on the next turn, they have to rare candy it again. So they need another rare candy. Or if you have a bunch of your opponent's evolved Pokemon damaged in play, like I said, you're up against a Golden Go deck and they have 3 Golden Go's in play and they all evolved from the 50 HP Gimmighoul, you can, on your next turn, after you've like used, I don't know, Sableye to spread damage on all their Golden Go's, you can use TM de-evolution and then de-evolve all of their Golden Go's to Gimmighouls, and then they all get knocked out. And you get 3 prize cards, and your opponent maybe doesn't even have an attacking option on their next turn. So super powerful tool card here. Definitely going to be played in some decks. I think more so than anything, decks will be built around this than just kind of thrown in as a one-of. But it could see some play as like a one-of in a couple decks as well. But it might even bring back spread decks. We have like that Miss Magus that spreads like 2 damage counters to all of your opponent's Pokemon in play. We could see like spread decks making a comeback. It's possible. This deck or this card offers a lot of possibilities for decks moving forward. Coming in at number 6, we're back to the EXs. We got the Iron Valiant EX, 220 HP. Its ability, once during your turn when this Pokemon moves from your bench to your active spot, you put 2 damage counters on one of your opponent's Pokemon, and then for Psychic Colorless, you do 200 damage. There's a couple of different ways I'm envisioning this card to be played. I think it's a very powerful card. Definitely going to be played in some kind of combo deck for sure. You could play it with Lost Box and play this as kind of your heavy hitter. You know, you do that 200 damage with the Laser Blade, so you can be a heavy hitter with the Laser Blade. You know, you don't play the Dragonite or the Raikou anymore. You play these instead. Mirage Gate to the Iron Valiant instead. And then, you know, you can spread damage with Sableye plus the Bits ability, and then that's a lot of damage that gets built up over time that you can then abuse with like the TM de-evolution that we just took a look at. Or you could play this in more of a aggressive Iron Valiant style deck where you like turn 1 try and put 3 or 4 Iron Valiant into play. And then switching between your Iron Valiants plus the Yoga Loop from Metacham, you can like turn 1 Yoga Loop, like, I don't know, a Bidoof for something, and then go back into your turn, and it's your turn again already off of your first turn of the game. The question is, what do you do from there? And my answer is, I don't know. I don't know what you would do from there, to be honest. Maybe you have a different attacker you can use. I haven't figured that part out yet, but this first part is pretty cool. If you can go like triple Iron Valiant into Meta Jam with the Yoga Loop on turn 1. That's pretty sick. That's pretty cool. What you do from there, I'm not sure yet. I'm gonna have to figure that out a little bit later on, but I'm excited for the Iron Valiant here at number 6. And my number 5, some of you might be a little bit mad at me at having this low, but it is the highest Pokemon in my top 10 here. This is the highest Pokemon I have here. It's the Iron Hands EX. That's going to be a very powerful Pokemon. Going to probably be in a tier 1 deck when it releases. I don't think it's going to be too game-breaking, meta-shattering, making everything super unfun like some people think it might. I do think it'll be good, though. I think it will be good. 230 HP, Lightning, Colorless, 160, and then for Lightning, Colorless, amp you very much, 120. If your opponent's active is knocked out by damage from this attack, take 1 additional prize card. Pretty good second attack. The first attack's kind of whatever, to be honest. Pretty good second attack. I think this will be used best in a Excalibur Chi-and-Pow deck, with the Vessel card coming out to be able to search out the lightning energy, combo that with Excalibur, accelerating water energy onto it. I think it's the best way to utilize the Iron Hands. You can obviously use it in like a Lost Zone deck with Mirage Gate. That's also a possibility, maybe, but I'm predicting this to be best with Chi-and-Pow and Excalibur, and I don't think too many decks are actually going to end up running this. I think it'll be one really good Iron Hands deck. It'll be a good deck. It won't be inherently broken or anything like that. It'll just be good, and that's fine. I think it's fine for Iron Hands to be okay and a solid deck in the format, but I don't think it's going to be like ridiculously broken or anything like that. So it comes in here for me at number 5. And now we're going to get into what the cards that I think are truly broken in this set, and that's the trainer card. So up at number 4, I do have Professor Turo's Scenario. Put 1 Pokemon into your hand. We've seen this in the past with stuff like AZ and Seeker and Professor Briney's Compassion, I believe. And Professor Turo's Scenario, I think the most powerful of those that we had seen in the past was probably AZ. I think Professor Turo's Scenario is going to definitely be a very powerful supporter card in its whole time in the game. There's going to be a ton of ways to abuse this card. Some decks will look to like play 4 of them to abuse its constant effective healing. People are going to be using this as mostly like a healing card, where like you send up something big that can't get quite get 1-hit KO'd, you attack with it, your opponent hits you, you Professor Turo's Scenario back to your hand, repeat. It can also be used as like a really powerful utility card. Like we've seen stuff like Penny in the past be utilized in Gardevoir EX decks to stop stuff from trapping your Greninja in the active with like Mawile and stuff like that. Well, now they have a more powerful option. Instead of Penny, you could just play Professor Turo's Scenario, and not only can you pick up your basic Pokemon with Penny, but you can pick up your evolution Pokemon with Professor Turo's Scenario. Imagine you're in a situation like this. Situation comes up sometimes in Gardevoir where you want to get your Gardevoir EX out of play, so you have to collapse away your Gardevoir EX, but you lose the Ralts, maybe the Kirlia, and the Gardevoir. But if you could just, you know, load up an attacker for turn with your Gardevoir EX, and then Professor Turo's your Gardevoir EX, and then bench the Ralts back down, that's such a better board state to be going into on your next turn than collapsing away your Gardevoir EX. You still have the Gardevoir EX in your hand, you have the Kirlia in your hand, who knows what else you have in your hand to work with those cards. But yeah, this card is super strong and definitely going to be played in decks through probably out its whole existence, to be honest. This card will always be in a good meta deck no matter what. It's always going to be around, and even could lead to some broken decks for a tournament or two or a meta or two until people like figure out what the heck is going on with it. But yeah, very powerful supporter card for sure. Another powerful trainer card coming in at number 3 is the Counter Catcher. Switch one of your opponent's bench Pokemon to the active spot if you're behind on prize cards. Again, just like another super powerful trainer card that every deck can take advantage of, kind of like Professor Turo's. Every deck could take advantage of Professor Turo's. Every deck can take advantage of Counter Catcher. And yeah, super good card. Going to be played in a ton of things. Some decks will even be built around Counter Catcher and play like 3 or 4 of them, especially like Control, Block, Snorlax type decks. But even then, in the future, when Block Snorlax is no longer good, or maybe isn't good, other kind of control decks will definitely take advantage of them as well. And there will be other decks as well, like setup decks, where they kind of take their time, plan to fall behind on prize cards, and want to be hitting certain Pokemon on your opponent's field. Being able to do that more aggressively by, you know, playing a research for turn and then still being able to gust through Counter Catcher will make some really cool decks and really cool scenarios. So Counter Catcher, insanely powerful card that's going to be used probably once again in its whole existence throughout the game. A deck will probably be playing Counter Catcher. Some meta competitive deck will be playing Counter Catcher. Up at number 2 is the Professor Sada's Vitality. This one I wasn't sure if I should put this high. I wasn't sure if I should have this above Turo's and Counter Catcher or under it. I put it here at my number 2. It's a ridiculously powerful supporter. It is limited to ancient Pokemon, and that's why I was like unsure if I should put it this high or not, because it is limited to the ancient Pokemon. My prediction is it's going to be good with the ancient Pokemon that release immediately, the Roaring Moon, Sandy Shocks. I don't think Sandy Shocks will be very good, but this card will be in any Sandy Shocks decks that exist. But any other future ancient Pokemon that come out will probably also play Professor Sada's Vitality. Choose up to 2 of your ancient Pokemon and attach 1 basic energy from your discard pile to each of them, and then draw 3 cards. So now cards are usually only as good as other cards around them. I guess in this case, though, that's true for like Professor Sada's Vitality. It's a little bit less true for something like Counter Catcher or Turo Scenario. You don't need other cards to be good for those cards to just be good. Now, Professor Sada's Vitality kind of does need Radiant Greninja, I feel like, and Vessel, which is kind of be coming up here at my #1 card to be good. But we do have those cards right now. So I do think Professor Sada's Vitality is a ridiculously powerful card. The one thing I feel like it is currently missing is a ridiculously powerful ancient card. I think Roaring Moon is okay. Sandy Shocks is meh. That's kind of where we stop with ancient Pokemon. But in the next set, I'm sure we're going to get more ancient Pokemon to work with. And I think we'll see a lot more from this Professor Sada's Vitality when the next set drops. And the #1 card in the set, which I don't even think it's close, to be honest. A lot of people are probably talking up Iron Hands, but I think it's Earthen Vessel for sure. I wasn't too sold on that until like Chip mentioned it to me on our podcast the other week, where Chip was like, this just is the best card in the set. And now that I've thought about it a little bit more, I thought about all the decks that are going to be playing this immediately on release and how many decks are going to be able to take advantage of this card in the future. Yeah, this is a ridiculously powerful card. The Earthen Vessel, you must discard a card from your hand in order to use this card. Search your deck for up to 2 basic energy cards, reveal them, and put them into your hand. The Iron Hands Excalibur deck is going to play this on release. Golden Go is going to play this on release. I could actually see this being played in Gardevoir as well to accelerate your basic energy out of your deck quicker. This could definitely be played in like Gardevoir. And then in the future, who knows how many different decks are going to play this card. This card is going to be played in so many decks throughout its time in the standard format. And it doesn't need any other cards around it to be good for it to be good. It just is good. Same thing like I was kind of mentioning with Counter Catcher and Turo Scenario. Those just are really good cards. It doesn't need certain decks to be popular in the meta or be good in the meta. It just is a ridiculously good card. It doesn't need any other good cards to combo with it to make it good. It just is. So Earthen Vessel gets my #1 spot here from Paradox Rift. Let me know what you think about my top 10, top 11 plus honorable mention if you include Xatu, whatever you want to call it. Do you think, what would you change about my list? Should Iron Hands be #1? That might be the main one that people come at me for. Or is there anything that isn't in the top 10 that you think should have been in my top 10? What is in your top 10? Let me know in the comment section down below, and I'll catch y'all in the next video.